I'm just wondering why there was two different sets of outcomes for the same crime, one committed by a citizen, one committed by a cop. Specifically, when a citizen passed a school bus while kids were loading or unloading, that citizen was arrested and held on a $20,000 bond. When a police officer did it, he was just given a citation.
Yeah, that's totally two different circumstances.
Okay, well, in both instances, somebody almost hit a kid and then didn't stop and continued on. So were there any other elements to the one where the guy was put on a $20,000 bond?
Like I said, sir, I was not the charging officer. I don't know the details of the one that occurred up in Iredell County.
You're saying they're two different circumstances, and then you're telling me you don't even know the circumstances of the first incident.
Well,
how would you know if they're different if you don't even know the circumstances?
You're trying to tie in law enforcement into something else, and the reason why you're upset is because he's an officer and he wasn't charged like the other guy. Like I told you, it's two totally different circumstances. Like I said, I don't know the differences because one, I wasn't the charging officer, and the other.
With all due respect, sir, don't bullshit a bullshitter, okay? I mean, you're telling me that the circumstances...
I can't release it, then why are you asking me?
Well, you're telling me that the circumstances are different, and then you're telling me that you don't know the circumstances.
They're two totally different circumstances.
And you keep interrupting me.
That's all I can tell you. They're two totally different circumstances.
But you just told me you don't even know the circumstances of the first incident. How could you know that they're different if you don't even know the circumstances of one of the incidents? Oh, my man. You sound so full of shit right now. It's comical, man.
All right. Any other questions or anything?
What was your name again, just for the record?
It's Sergeant H.T. Snoop.
Are you believing the stuff that you're saying?
All right. I appreciate you. Have a good Memorial Day.
Yeah, you too, buddy.
Thanks, sir.
Hey everybody, it's James Freeman, and today's video is a follow-up from the Concord, North Carolina Police Department, where the police officer passed a school bus on the right side while a student was getting off, almost running over the student. Little refresher in case you guys didn't see the video: student was getting off the bus. Bus driver yells to the student to stop. Student turns around just as a Concord, North Carolina police officer drives by. If it weren't for the bus driver, the student would have been seriously injured or worse. At this point, we have a press release from the chief of police. Check this out.
This week, a concerned parent posted to social media a video of a Concord police cruiser illegally passing a stopped school bus. Parents of the child on that bus, as well as many in our community, were angry about what they saw. As a parent whose children rode the school bus for many years, I completely understand that anger. This officer, Matthew Willett, did the wrong thing. The State Highway Patrol is the agency with jurisdiction where this occurred. We immediately gave them all the information they requested so they can investigate the officer's action. They ticketed and charged Matt for passing a stopped school bus, which is a Class 1 misdemeanor in North Carolina. He'll have to appear in court just like anyone else who's cited for the same violation. But Concord police officers are held to higher standards. After completing an internal investigation, I decided to suspend Matt without pay for 5 days. Matt accepted full responsibility for his mistake and deeply regrets what happened. The investigation showed that he was behind another car in traffic when he pulled into a turn lane, turned right into a neighborhood. He failed to see the flashing lights and was unaware the bus was stopped to let a child off. While we all make mistakes, police officers carry an extra responsibility to do everything they can to avoid them. Some on social media have called for me to fire Matt over his mistake. This was a serious error and he is being held accountable for it, but I want to be clear.
Is he though?
This simply doesn't rise to the level of firing him. Matt is a 15-year veteran who's dedicated his life to keeping our community safe. He's been an engaged officer in our community, participating in countless youth and civic education programs, and spent much of his career as a canine officer. He's never had a citizen complaint during his entire career and has been commended multiple times for his performance. Our job as police officers is to keep our community, and especially our kids, safe. Matt made a mistake, and in doing so fell short of our duty in that regard. I'm sorry we let you down. I want to reassure you that our priority is keeping our residents and visitors safe while earning the trust of those we serve.
But they did treat Matt differently than they treat the rest of the public, because this just happened. This same thing just happened, I think, 2 months ago, if that. So here's the video of the same thing or something very similar happening a couple of months ago with a totally different outcome.
Between a student getting on a bus and a driver who didn't stop. This heart-stopping video from Statesville shows two students almost get hit by a car in March of this year. That driver was booked into the Iredell County Detention Center under a $20,000 bond and was charged with passing a stopped school bus, careless and reckless driving. Queen City News has requested the sergeant's employment history in this most recent incident, and we have reached out to NC State Highway Patrol to see why these two seemingly similar incidents resulted in one man behind bars and the other not. Concord police did say their investigation process requires several steps that do take time, and they're asking for the community's patience.
That's what they always say. The investigation takes time, but when this particular person did the same thing that a cop did, it didn't take any time at all. They had him in jail that day, that same day. They had the driver in jail on a $20,000 bond. So why did this and this was 3/2/2023, just a couple months earlier. So why is the police officer not in jail on a $20,000 bond?
Concord Police, this is Megan. How can I help you?
What do you think about the fact that there was a different consequence for a cop than a citizen?
I don't know the specifics, so I don't really have an opinion on it.
What would your opinion be if I did tell you that two people committed the same crime, and one of them was a cop and one of them was not, and they were held to a different standard?
I'm not really sure, sir.
All right, well, back to blue till it happens to you, huh?
North Carolina Highway Patrol Communications, Webster.
Is there a supervisor present that I could speak with?
Okay, what's it a reference to, sir?
I'm just wondering why there was two different sets of outcomes for the same crime, one committed by a citizen, one committed by a cop.
Hey, it's Sergeant H.T. Sloop with the Highway Patrol here in North Carolina. What can I do for you?
H.T. Sloop, is that what you said?
Yes.
How you doing, man?
Doing good.
Good. Hey, I was just wondering when you guys are going to pick up Matt and put him in jail on a $20,000 bond.
He's been charged. That's all I can release. If you're talking about the guy that was in Statesville that about hit the kid and then they had to seize the car and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's totally two different circumstances.
Okay.
Like I said,
what were the difference between the two circumstances?
well, I mean, he was a hit and run, and
Are you saying he? Okay, go on. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
Yeah, he fled the scene, and then they had to track him down, and there's some other issues. This one, he reported it to his supervisors. We did our investigation, and then we charged him like any other civilian or anybody else that would have passed a stop school bus.
So the police officer stopped then? He didn't flee the scene?
Well, I can't release, that's for court.
Well, you just told me that the other guy fled the scene.
Right.
And so that would mean that
no, it didn't. I told you I can't release that information.
It sounds like
two different circumstances, and like I said, I've been doing this for 13 years, and I've never taken anybody to jail that's passed stop school bus.
Okay, you haven't, but other North Carolina police officers have, right?
Possibly.
Including the one where the other incident where someone was put on a $20,000 bond, right?
Right. The one, if you're talking about the one in Iredell County, yes, he was taken to jail.
Right. And who was he taken to jail by?
I don't know.
And by that I mean what agency? Was it state police, county?
I don't know. Like I said, I'm not assigned to Iredell County, so I wouldn't know who picked him up or who charged him and stuff like that.
But he did flee the scene, right? So he almost hit a kid, not quite, right?
Correct. That's what the video showed. I've seen it on the news.
And then continued on and didn't stop?
Correct.
Which is different than the police officer, because the police officer almost hit a kid and then stopped, right?
Like I said, I can't release any details about the actual investigation.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's exactly the same. I don't believe that the police officer stopped at all, but you don't want to tell me.
Well, sir, I can't tell you.
Well,
like I said, this is he's been charged. That's all I can tell you.
You see the concern that the public might have here, though, right? You're being evasive. You're being evasive and not letting me know whether the cop stopped or not. You were trying to tell me there's differences between the two instances. In both instances,
there is. There's two totally different instances.
Okay. Well, in both instances, somebody almost hit a kid and then didn't stop and continued on.
Like I said, I know what happened in the one you're referring to, and I can't comment on the one that happened here in Cabarrus.
So were there any other elements to the one where the guy was put on a $20,000 bond?
Like I said, sir, I was not the charging officer. I don't know the details of the one that occurred up in Iredell County.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean,
you have to understand there's only so much I can tell you. Listen, I know you're concerned, but I can tell you he wasn't treated no different than if you would have passed the stop school bus. I would have went to your house, interviewed you, I would have looked at all the footage, and then I would have charged you. I would have took you to jail.
You wouldn't have taken me to jail?
No, not under the circumstances that occurred on this one in Cabarrus County.
All right, I'm just not seeing the difference between the two. So at what point?
Well, you need to throw away. You just need to look at it like you're trying to tie in law enforcement into something else, and the reason why you're upset is because he's a officer and he wasn't charged like the other guy. Like I told you, it's two totally different circumstances. So once you get that, separate that, then you can look at it another way.
You know, I'm absolutely okay with looking at it that way if you could explain to me the details that make the circumstances different.
See,
but you're saying you can't explain that.
I can't. No.
So I'm just supposed to trust you. But I'm also supposed to trust police officers not to pass stopped school buses. So how am I supposed to just take your word for it that the situations are different if you can't give me the details?
I know, well, you should know that I can't give you the details. The case is not going to trial yet.
That is not true that you cannot give me the details. I've been doing this for a long time. You got your choices. I have departments that give me all of the details right up front, and I have other ones that try to cover things up, and 2 years later we finally get all the details. So what I'm going to ask you then is, at what point will you be able to give me all of the details so that the public can determine for themselves whether or not these two situations were really different or if they were similar?
You'll have to wait till either one that's probably going to be after trial or after the case has been adjudicated.
So can I expect a call back from you after trial then so that you can explain the differences to me?
Well, I mean, I'll be glad to. Like I said, I don't know the differences because one, I wasn't the charging officer in the other one.
Sure.
I can just tell you on this one what the reason why he was not taken to jail, one of your questions. So that's all I can tell you right now.
You're saying you can tell me the reason he wasn't taken to jail? What was that then?
Right, and I told you they're two different circumstances.
But you're saying they're two different circumstances, and then you're telling me you don't even know the circumstances of the first incident.
Well,
how would you know if they're different if you don't even know the circumstances?
I can just tell you what I've seen on the news on the one in Iredell County.
Do you realize, with all due respect, sir, don't bullshit a bullshitter, okay? I mean, you're telling me that the circumstances...
If you know I can't release it, then why are you asking me?
Well, you're telling me that the circumstances are different, and then you're telling me that you don't know the circumstances.
They're two totally different circumstances.
And you keep interrupting me.
That's all I can tell you. They're two totally different circumstances.
But you just told me you don't even know the circumstances of the first incident. How could you know that they're different if you don't even know the circumstances of one of the incidents?
I can just what I've seen on the news or when it happened on the news.
Oh, my man. I'll tell you what, man. The public's going to decide. But to me, you sound so full of shit right now. It's comical, man.
All right. Any other questions or anything?
What was your name again, just for the record?
It's Sergeant H.T. Snoop.
Are you believing the stuff that you're saying?
All right. I appreciate you. Have a good Memorial Day.
Yeah, you too, buddy.
Thanks, sir.
Shit. Guys, don't forget to check out the merch store. We got that Back the Blue Till It Happens to You, and also the tank top versus wife beater and a handful of other designs. We'll see you guys on the next one.